Hi, I'm Suki.
And I'm Claire.
Welcome to Getting Psychic, where you can listen to us use ourselves to test the theory that anyone can get psychic. Hello and welcome. Guess who I have here? It's Claire.
Hi.
Hi, Claire. Welcome back.
Hi, Suki. Thank you.
How's life?
It's been fascinating, truth be told. You have done an awesome fucking job doing the podcast on your own. And I think you're an incredible interviewer. And I think it was awesome.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really nice of you. I just fucking did what I had to do. But also, it's weird. I realized along the way, oh, okay, my genuine curiosity is paying off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you also are able to ask questions that other people wouldn't necessarily even consider as something to ask or to know. It's like you take things a step beyond the normal. So, how'd you get into this? It's like you then keep unpeeling what.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not actually here to talk about me.
How awesome you are. Yeah, we are.
I mean, yeah, we can do that later. No, we're here to talk about everything that happened. I want to kind of share whatever you're willing to share with our audience about what went down with your heart exploding.
Yeah, it was crazy. My heart exploded.
Okay, so take us back.
So I'll take you back to March, to the end of March.
Okay.
Where Eric and I got married in Joshua Tree, and it was the most wonderful. You were there. The most wonderful, beautiful, heart exploding experience.
It was pretty awesome.
It was great. And then we went to San Francisco and did a renegade, and we popped over to Salt Lake City and did a pop-up at a friend of a friend's cute shop. And then also, by the way, Salt Lake City is amazing. It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Just like, the average person does right after they have a wedding.
Oh, I know. We immediately went to work.
I know. That's insane.
I mean, we drove up the coast. We drove up, the cute highway and camped at Pismo Beach and shit like that. So it felt a little bit honeymoony. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily relaxing, but I mean, it was. But whatever. It also was raining the whole time. Anyway, and then for some reason, Eric decided to hightail it home, from Salt Lake City. So we got back home. We left Thursday morning really early from Utah and got to our house in Chicago Friday evening. So he kind of didn't stop driving.
That's insane.
It was insane. But he was like, fuck these flatlands. Let's just go home. And I'm insanely grateful for that, because if this had happened while we were, I don't know, in Wyoming or Nebraska, I would definitely not be alive. Yeah, so we got home Friday night, and on Sunday very early morning, I woke up having very bizarre pain, but I was so tired that I went back to bed. And then on Sunday, like Eric kept trying to like get me to get up, and I was like a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and then finally he was like, "It's noon. It's time to get up." And as soon as I sat up, that same pain from the middle of the night came back, which felt like a baby elephant sitting on my chest and a vice around my jaw. And I was like, oh no, I'm in trouble. And then I realized I was going to pass out. And I told him, and I said, I'm going to pass out. Something's wrong. And he put me in my chair. He said, hospital. And I said, oh yeah. And then I passed out. But then I would like randomly come to and be like, grab that sweater, grab some underwear. Like there was a part of me that kept like waking up being like, we need to prepare. I know that this is going to be a minute. So anyway, the emergency room experience I hardly remember it, but it luckily Swedish had a doctor that knew very quickly that this was not something that they could handle. And they put me in an ambulance to Northwestern. And during that time, my legs turned bone white and I couldn't feel them. And they put me in an ambulance, and all I remember from that entire experience, besides like giving Erica a smooch and telling him to take my wedding rings, which is really weird. Like I just randomly was like, take my rings off, which is really awesome because they would have had to have cut them off of me, which would have sucked. I remember laying in the ambulance and being like, oh, so this is what being in an ambulance is like. And then gone. I'm gone. Because I guess they pumped me like full of fucking fentanyl. Like, just like Eric was like, they just kept like, douche, douche, douche. Like, he's like, you were not present, which is great because he said I was howling in pain. So that's cool. I don't remember that. But so, they put me in an ambulance, and like, this is like the most heartbreaking part to me is like this doctor then turns to Eric and is like, so you have to prepare yourself. This is as bad as it gets. And like, he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Because like this could go not well.
This is very, very bad. So call the people that need to know. And it was, like 1 p.m. We were supposed to go to brunch. And like, so anyway, what ended up happening is I had something called an ascending aortic dissection, which so your aorta, for those of you that don't know, is the largest artery in the body. And it's kind of shaped like a candy cane. And the little part of the candy cane before the bendy, for the bend, that's called the ascending aorta, and it is connected to the heart. And then the descending aorta goes down and brings blood to the rest of your body. So what was happening with my ascending aorta is it was like, so you know how like when an onion gets old, it splits and you can see all the little layers in it? My aorta did that. It split. And then there's all these little layers of tissue, basically, of aorta. And they started pooling with blood. So all of the blood of my body was pooling right there, and it wasn't going down to the rest of my body, leading to my legs turning bone white and my lower back hurting so bad I was howling, and et cetera, et cetera.
Oh my God.
So because of this, it's called the Widowmaker, which is crazy.
Oh my God.
I know. Because usually it is older men with high blood pressure that haven't been taking care of themselves that just keep walking around being like, well, I don't know what this, weird pain is, but I'm not going to worry about
Oh
it.
my God.
And they literally
Yeah.
drop dead. And the doctors later told Eric that if I hadn't been in a wheelchair, I definitely would have been dead. Which I'm like,
holy shit.
Well, thank you, MS. What a treat. Because I would have been walking around, and they said I survived by 20 minutes, which I'm like, poof. I guess I should have gone to the hospital in the middle of the night when that shit woke me up for the first time.
Wow.
But so anyway, so then I was in surgery for 8 hours. They cooled my body to 63 degrees, which I think is insane. So, yeah. I mean, that's basically what they did. They killed me so they could keep me alive because they couldn't have any blood going to anywhere near the heart or lungs. So they had to control everything. Medicine is just insanely fascinating. So that happened. And then I woke up and had no idea what happened, except the first thing that I said to Eric was, you have to call Suki and let her know that the aliens were working on me. And Eric was like, hi, wife, I'm glad you're alive. And I think we'll wait so that you can tell her yourself. But it was the first thing that I said.
It was important.
I mean, because they pulled out the tubes and it was the last thing I remember. I had memory of these aliens, of being on a table. It wasn't it didn't feel like an operating table. It wasn't cold. There was warmth with it. And
yeah.
And it's like I see it from this the side. So
before we dissect that,
yeah,
I wanted to say, as a response to that, Eric called me, and he never calls me. So I looked at my phone and I was like, weird. So of course I answer it. I'm in the middle of working out at the gym.
Yeah.
And I sit down on the floor, and I was in a state of what I guess the closest thing would be to denial. Or sort of inability to absorb what he was telling me. Because I immediately went into the mode of, okay, what can I do to help? Do you need me to all this stuff, all of the stuff that he wasn't prepared to absorb, because I didn't realize until days later. And when he was like, we're still in thoughts and prayers mode. He didn't, nobody knew if you were actually going to survive yet.
Yeah.
And having to absorb that was insane.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people didn't know for a while because they didn't know if I was going to survive it.
I mean, I felt like you were in my heart, but when you're doing that, you actually don't know if it's a hope or a intuition.
Yeah.
So, but he did tell me about the aliens.
Oh, good.
Yeah. In that call, which is hilarious because he was in a very critical, and you were in a critical condition, and he was in a really intense place. But he said, well, the first thing she said was you have to tell Suki about the aliens. And I think maybe that was partly why I thought you were more okay than you were, because you came out and said something. But then that was even before Was that before or after that insane image of you intubated that you unfortunately sent me?
Oh, that was before. I mean, like, I didn't
Your
send you that
honeymoon
image
photo?
until, like, I couldn't see for, like, a day and a half because of all of the drugs.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
my
I
god.
couldn't
But when
focus.
was that picture?
Eric took pictures of me right after surgery, like, intubated.
So okay, so intubated before you ever said anything.
Intubated,
So, like
I was in a coma, basically, and
yeah, so
then
Claire's a psychopath, and she sends me this picture, and I think the joke was like, honeymoon pics,
uh-huh,
and
'cause
it's
my
like
tongue was
her
sticking out,
intubated
like,
with
I'm
her
in
head's like super swollen, her tongue's sticking out. She looks not in her body. It was
Mm-mm. It
horrifying.
was a
I
terrifying
actually
photo.
I'm like, "You're a psychopath." I actually deleted it so that I could go back and text you later. Because I was like, "I can't see this every time I come
Oh
here."
my god, I have no recollection of sending that to you, that's awesome.
Yeah, psycho.
Uh,
You were still in the hospital, but I was like,
yeah.
"Dude, okay, she's back." Anyway, so keep going.
Yeah, the aliens thing, there were 4 of them standing around this table. I was on the table, but I was, like, just glowing energy, and there were,
Yeah.
like, on the long side of the table, there were 2 smaller aliens on each side, and then on the ends of the table, there were 2, and I feel like they were bigger, or, like,
Mhm.
longer, but thin.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. That's all I know.
So you remember just being, like, observing from the side and seeing these different sized bodies.
Yes, and knowing that they were aliens.
Do you remember more details about what they looked like?
Not really, I had a session when I got home with Tamara, who could
Yes.
be in.
Episode 31. No, I don't know what episode she
Yeah.
was, but Tamara Andrews Passick. Well, let me explain that.
Okay.
So, and PS, if y'all haven't had a reading with Tamara, hit her up.
Oh my god, please do it.
Claire isn't like really you're not like over concerned with details.
Correct.
And I mean that like in a complimentary way, not like she doesn't care about details. I mean it in a way that's like you're kind of just like, whatever happens, happens. I'm like at peace with
Mhm.
it, right? So when you last month reached out to me and said, "Hey, have have you mentioned to any of your weird alien friends about the ETs that I saw in surgery?" When you said that, I knew that you actually really needed more information
Yeah.
because it was out of character
Right.
for you to be like, "I need to know
Mhm.
more." That's very much like something I would do. But when you did it, I was like, "Oh, well,
Tamara,
I think
obviously.
I can help." Like, yeah, talk to Tamara. She communicates with ETs like daily.
Yeah,
So
I
then
did.
you immediately emailed and had a reading with her.
One of the reasons I kept thinking about the aliens was because everything that was happening with my body, and
Yeah, okay.
felt like I am in the middle of a massive metamorphosis. I am being reborn in a way, and I know that these aliens have to do with it.
Tell us what was happening with your body.
So, my lower body, because of MS, doesn't really work. And when my, you know, chest was cut open and my sternum was taken out, and then they did all this shit and put it back together, that doesn't heal super fast. So I wasn't allowed to move my arms away from my body except my elbows to my fingers. So imagine me as a T-Rex. Like,
That's exactly what I was picturing.
it's like Claire is now a T-Rex, and that's...
Okay, but you're a super sexy
Thank
T-Rex,
you.
for sure.
And that is as much as I can do. I have zero control over the rest of my body. And for every day you're in a hospital bed, it will take 3 days to recover from it physically.
Really?
Yes. So you start losing your muscle ability and mass within 2 weeks. You start losing it.
Wow.
And so basically, I was a baby. I could not do anything by myself. I mean, like, I could slowly start feeding, like, I could feed myself. Like, T-Rexes can use, get to their mouth with that hand. But that tiny, tiny arm. I mean, luckily, I was also really high. I mean, I was on a lot of
Luckily.
Oxy. Yeah. And I'm also very fortunate that I don't have the addictive gene at all, because there was
Yeah.
because I was on so many drugs. So I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks, and then they sent me to what's called subacute rehab, which is basically convalescence. It's like you're not in the hospital, but you're constantly surrounded by nurses and nurse aides, and you do a little bit of PT, and but it's like, it's still like, I couldn't move my body by myself for another like 2 weeks. Like, I lifted my head by myself, and I remember it and being like, look it, I just lifted my head by myself. Look at what I can do. And that's insane. And so I'm still at the point where, like, I can hardly, I mean, like, I'm now allowed to exercise like fully. I'm now allowed to like move my arms completely, but it means that I'm relearning everything. I'm relearning how to push myself up. I'm relearning how, like, for those of you who have babies or, babysat, tummy time, where like the baby's on his tummy and is like starting to push himself up. Yeah, that's like my life right now. It's like having tummy time. And but the thing is about all of this, and why I kept thinking about the aliens after I was woken up from the surgery, and Eric's like, hey, and after I was like, call Suki, aliens. I was like, what happened? And he's like, you had open heart surgery, honey. And I was like, that's stupid. No, I didn't. Like, what do you mean? Like, I just couldn't believe that. And I had him take a picture to show me, to prove it, but I couldn't see it because I couldn't really see. For those of you who haven't been under anesthesia for hours upon hours, it makes, I mean, like, you're crazy afterwards. Like, you're just like a goofball, like from some weird planet. My dad was like, you were bonkers. Like, yeah. But through everything, there was never a point where I was like, I can't believe this happened. Like, what is going, there was never anything like, after I had survived it, there was nothing scary about it to me. I just kept being like, this is a weird plot twist. And it's fascinating, and it means something really, really big.
Yeah, you just understood that.
Yeah, I know those aliens have to do with it. Like, because the doctors actually said, like, the first thing I remember about talking to doctors is all the surgeon's team came in and were like, so we have zero idea why this happened to you. Like, there is nothing about your existence or your family history or your life that this should have happened. So we're very confused.
So what about, is that sort of what registered as metamorphosis to you, or what?
Well, I feel like,
or was it just an understanding?
I mean, like, it feels like a certain being reborn. Like, I physically am a baby again, you know, in the sense of like, I have to relearn everything and re-understand like my body connection. It feels, I don't know, for some reason it feels like important for like where I was at in existence that this happened.
Yeah. So we had a conversation. I think I remember you were still in, you weren't in the hospital, but you were in the rehab facility. And it was a day that my dog died.
Yeah.
So you called me. But we got to have one of just very few conversations that we had during that time, because you were kind enough to call me. And I was still like trying to be very careful. Like, I didn't want to say anything to, like, I don't know, excite you or uh get you worked up or anything, like I was just trying to just take care of you, kind of, in that way. Um so, but it was on my mind. Like, I know the way that Claire thinks, and I know the way that I would be thinking, and the thought of what am I supposed to learn here was like very much on my mind, but I wasn't in a place where I was comfortable saying, "So
What do you
Claire,
think?
what do you think you're supposed to learn from this?" Yeah, because there's no way I would be ready to ask you that in that like vulnerable position, because I wouldn't want it to come off as like, I know that you would have understood it, but I just was treading lightly. But luckily, in that conversation, you said it. You said, "I keep thinking, what am I supposed to learn from this?" And I was like, "Fuck yes." Like, we get to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, "Well, it's not vulnerability."
Word.
And you're like, "Well, fucking MS taught me that."
Right.
And so we got to talk about it, but we kind of left it at like, we'll find out. And then like it was a while later before you finally were like, you got home and you were like, you finally, like, I guess, brought up what you had been thinking the whole time. Like, I need to kind of get to the bottom of this alien thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because I knew it was an important part of it. Like, I've just kept thinking about that and being like, why? I've never dreamt about aliens. I've never seen them. I've never had any encounters with them. I've let them know that I'm open to it though.
Yeah.
And it happens while I'm in surgery and they're working on me. So, yeah, the vulnerability part really quick is just hilarious though, because it did put me, it's like I already know how to be really vulnerable. And it was like the universe was like, "Oh, you think you do, but hold on. We're gonna step it up for you." And it was, I mean,
God.
like, it's wild. I have to be completely reliant on other people right now, for so many things, and mostly my husband, who I now get to call my husband.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things I actually really wanted to know, besides, what the fuck is this about, was why it happened right after getting married. Like, why did it happen? That timing, it was almost 2 weeks to the day. It was 2 weeks to the day. It was almost 2 weeks to the hour And the timing was too crazy to me. The fact that it waited until I got home. And I got to see one of my best friends that just had a baby. I got to see the baby, which was so important to me. I was so sad that she wasn't at the wedding. And I was so sad we weren't home to see the baby. And so I got to see the baby. And then it happened. And I'm like, this is ordained then. It felt too like I was given things beforehand. And then we're putting you in a cocoon. And you're going to turn into goo. And you'll have no idea what kind of butterfly you're going to look like when you get out of that thing. But don't cut it open because you'll totally turn into mush. So I had the session with Tamara, which I don't even know how to explain a lot of it. As far as what happened to my heart goes, she said, this was always going to happen. It's been known since I was born that this was going to occur. Hold on, let me cry for a second. And that having MS was necessary to have before this could happen, so that I could survive it, so that I could deal with the massive change that was going to be happening. And I have thought about in my entire life, I've thought about what is MS about? What is this? And I am not one of those people who bitches and complains. I just roll with all of the punches, which I always think is crazy. I don't think it's crazy, but so many people don't, which I understand why they don't, but I've just always been yeah, okay, this is what's happening. As if I've known this is something that has to be occurring. And so to learn that everything I've gone through with MS, it was the lead up so that I could process what this was pretty wow-ing to me. It's definitely going to be shifting me into a different realm. I don't really get what that's about at the moment, and I'm okay with that. I don't need to know how it all unfolds right now. It'll happen, and I rather not make jumps and assumptions, but I do believe it has to do with an elevation of my energetic body and how that affects my physical body, and how I will be able, be able to use my spirit in more advanced ways. So Tamara also told me, because she went and talked to the aliens, the ETs, about what was going on during my surgery. And she knows those ETs. She described them exactly how I saw them. And
Mm-hmm.
the 2 on the end were the overseers, and the 4 in the center were the workers. I guess they put an upside down triangle diamond into my heart. And they took a piece of my heart, and they took a piece of my lungs, and she didn't know why. But that's fine. The upside down triangle, to me, that's yin. That's water. That's nourishment. And that felt great to hear. I'm like, oh yes, nourish this bitch.
Mm-hmm. Tamra has a gift and an ability to like access these interdimensional beings, and she does so regularly. And I mean, this is an extremely foreign concept to a lot of people, and definitely like a lot of our listeners that we just happen to be used to right now.
But I wasn't even a year or so ago. Like, this is totally new to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my next thought, was like, when we started this podcast, well, I had definitely been exposed to it, but not to the degree that I am now. Like, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, second nature now. And I think that's probably the direction that will happen for like many, many people. But anyway, I was thinking when you were saying this that it's really incredible and beautiful and amazing that we've been living in the same city for like, over 20 years. And we formed a deep, like a actual connection after having met like a million years ago, but like we formed an actual connection like over a year and a half ago now, right? But well, maybe like 2 years ago. Who knows? Time is not real. But anyway, more recently, and we started this podcast. And within that time period, I met Tamara and made a deep connection with her, who also weirdly like lives in Illinois. And she was the exact person on the planet that you needed to talk to. And I have no doubt about that. And I think that that is just so cool that that happened. And you were instantly like talking to her. And I think it was really important. So I don't know. Like, I always just really want to make sure that we acknowledge those like amazing
connections.
Yeah.
The way it all flows into each other perfectly.
Yeah. I'm just, yes, like so grateful.
Completely. That's out of like this entire experience. When people are like, how are you? I'm like, grateful. It's just like like my heart feels bigger. I mean, like, I've always had gratitude, but like my gratitude now is 12 quadrillion times bigger. Not just for being alive, but for every thing I have ever gotten to do and experience, and I get to continue to do and experience and meet, and even the hard shit. It's like, you just keep going through the hard stuff. Like right now, the healing process is insanely hard because I'm in really intense rehab, and I'm exhausted, and I'm working out really hard with tiny weights. And I'm like, these 2-pound weights are insanely heavy. And it's, and it feels insane, but I'm also just like, oh my God, everything is beautiful and perfect. And we'll see where it all goes.
Yeah.
But.
And I mean, like, obviously, friendly reminder, gratitude is the highest vibration emotion that you can exist in. So
yeah,
if you're spinning out, it's always good to at least attempt to
absolutely
find it.
Right. Just find 3 things that you're grateful for that in that moment that exist, because it puts you in the moment, which takes you out of your spin, and it feeds your heart. So one of the things I really wanted to know was the timing of it all and understanding how it happened exactly 2 weeks after marrying Eric, and when I asked Tamara that, she let me know that, first of all, I had a choice of whether or not I wanted to die or not. And they waited until I married Eric so that I had something to live for. Which is the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah.
And just thinking about, like, oh my God, what that would have done to him. I mean, whatever, what it would have done to my family, my friends, to like go from this dope ceremony and like wedding weekend of just such explosive love to then be like, cool, now we're gonna have a funeral. It's like that would just be fucked up. So when she said that, I was like, oh, that feels completely correct. That we had to wait until we were somewhere that I could survive it. Northwestern University Hospital happens to be one of the only places in the country that is profound at this specific surgery. And even then, the success rate of it is 50%. So, it's just like mind blowing to me, that we were in Utah 2 days before.
Oh.
And it waited. So it's been a lot. It's been beautiful. It's been hard. It's going to continue to be hard. I am slowly getting back into things. I am not ready to see clients yet, which is a total bummer. I really miss seeing clients. I'm doing photos though at the studio, and we are going to be set up at Pitchfork, and I'll be in and out. Like, I won't be working that much.
Yeah.
But I'll be around.
You cannot.
I will definitely be seeing Grandmaster Flash, and
she's got her priorities.
I have priorities. Yes, De La Soul is playing. I will be seeing that.
So, I gotta touch on this. What they had planned for you was a very rare and specific sort of upgrade. And it has to do with energetics working at a vibration that most human bodies could not withstand. So the setup was, like you said, you had to not be able to walk, first of all, to be able to survive that. Now, I don't know about the details of why they can't just give someone a freaking upgrade and have them like, walk out the door. But I think that another element to it was that you needed to maintain a lack of movement in like the transition to like a sort of integrating the new energies, which, you know, is wild stuff to casually talk about it, but we talk about this stuff all the time. Like who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I think
just deal with it.
Just deal. I think that's, what was I gonna say?
You're still integrating.
I know I'm still, well, yeah, clearly. I mean, I have no idea what it'll look like after all. Meditating is very hard for me right now. I mean, like, I'm doing it, but in bits and pieces. But when I click in, man, I click in hard to the energy that, you know, comes with me meditating. It is,
yeah, how so?
Much more intense than it's ever been. It happens way faster and stronger.
Yeah.
That's all I'm noticing.
You're experiencing like the sensation of that higher vibration, or you're seeing and sensing things, or is it more just the former?
You sent me a meditation that made me sob.
Yeah.
I mean, like, out loud sob. And it was so visual and tactile for me. And that doesn't historically happen, where I can like feel deeply, but to be completely immersed and entrenched within the energy of it.
Yeah.
That was a new thing. But you know, it's like, you know, historically I'm like, well, what are the things I can do? What do I have special tools now? What are they? And I really now I'm like, I don't
it's
care.
fine.
I have so much healing to do.
Yeah, you'll learn
all
in due time.
I can focus on.
Totally. So like, yeah, kind of the background narrative of the whole thing was like, yeah, you're kind of moving into a higher vibration. You will move into like a much bigger or a more elevated space of healing for yourself and for other people. And that was like the whole thing, the whole reason for all of it. But it's like, we are in a time and space when we need all of that. We're all growing and upgrading, and you know, we need, you know, kind of like people like you who signed up to lead the charge. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty weird. It's pretty weird.
Cuckoo pants. Oh, but let me tell you, I gotta tell you guys one thing that I thought was so dope. So every single person on the cardiac floor and in the cardiac team, from surgeon to nurse to nurse's assistant and aide, every person that we met and that was helping me, they were so insanely kind and compassionate, and I felt so safe and held, and it was unbelievable to me. I've had multiple surgeries. I have to deal with neurologists all the time, and I've never had this experience. So for those of you who don't know, like, what I look like or whatever, I have this very large snake tattoo that wraps around my body, and then this very beautiful, delicate tattoo that's just at my clavicle. And this is where they cut me open, of course, to get to my heart. And I was like, I'm gonna only wear turtlenecks from now on. Like, my wardrobe is now gonna have to change because this is gonna be super fucked up looking, and that sucks. I'm gonna have this huge fucking gnarly scar. And when they took the tape off and I looked at my snake, they lined it up so perfectly and beautifully.
It's insane.
You can't tell unless you look incredibly close to my tits that there was a slice going through it. And when one of the surgeons came in, like the residents, and she took the tape off, and I just gasped. And she told me that they work really hard. If there's a tattoo, they work really hard to make sure that the tattoo gets to heal properly so that it looks just like it did before. And she told me about this tattoo that she did, which was like a very thin lined, beautiful flower piece on this woman's chest that she spent an incredible amount of time lining up each of those fine lines and making sure that it looked as close to it did beforehand. And so I asked her to take a picture of this and to send it to the person that did this and thank them for me. And then we got into a conversation where I was like, that doesn't happen in other, departments or whatever, like they don't care. And I was like, do you think it's fascinating like I do that love and compassion and nurturing and care and all of these wonderful things that you guys have been giving, that they energetically live in the organ that you work on? And she was like, oh, wow, I've never thought about that. And I'm like, it's really cool. Like, it's really, really
that's
cool.
Beautiful. You're like, I have this podcast to recommend.
Yeah. Eric and I couldn't believe it. Like, Eric wrote down every single aide, doctor, nurse that we met that helped and that was kind. The first person when I was in the ICU, the first nurse there was like the head nurse, the first aide that came in, and Eric was like so blown away by this. She got a brush and brushed my hair and put it like up, like cleaned me off, put my hair up in a ponytail, and just, like she just took care of me to make, like, so I didn't look like a fucking disaster. It was, and Eric just thought it was like the sweetest thing ever for somebody to come in and do something that she did not have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
Wow.
So there.
I know there's so much more to come, but I'm so glad you're on the other side of what's behind you anyway.
Me too. Yep.
I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm serious.
I'm glad I'm who I am so that I could be where I'm at. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same here, buddy.
Yeah. So there.
All right.
Yeah.
Should we close it out?
I'm going to close it out with an absurd amount of gratitude to everyone that checked in on me, everyone that donated to the GoFundMe, it's just been that wrote me letters. Like, I had people writing me letters,
it's amazing.
It's beautiful. It was amazing. It felt so good to be held by a community of people that don't even know, a lot that didn't even know me very well at all, if at all. So thanks.
So cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So grateful.
So grateful. That's the best.
Well, thank you for coming back and telling your story.
It's lovely to be back, and talk to you all later. Bye, Suki.
Talk soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. Be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss a new episode. If you liked today's episode, please consider leaving a review to help the other psychics find their way here.